And we have a very special guest with us who just came from the main stage to here after a big opening keynote. No Lunch, our new boss, CEO and president of AAMI now, Pamela Aurora. Welcome, Pamela.
Yes, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's get you up on the mic just a little bit there. We want to make sure everybody can hear you.
Yeah, I'm
There
pleased to
you
be
are.
here. Thank you for welcoming me here. This is a lot of fun.
It is fun. So, as we all talked about before this, one of our goals, we want to just give folks that aren't here at eXchange a chance to get to know you. And so, tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about how you got your start in technology.
Well, we're here in San Antonio in Texas, and I talked about this a little bit in my keynote, but I started my career working for an entrepreneurial out of Texas here, Ross Perot. My first half of
Name's
my...
a little bit familiar.
Yeah, a little bit.
Look at this. Look at this chart.
Yeah, exactly.
For those of us of an age that can
Exactly.
remember all of that.
Exactly, and
He
for
was
the
a wonderful man.
Texans, yeah, he was, and he just, as far as the culture of the company, very can-do spirit, had a lot of opportunities to work in so many different industries across the globe. But being here in San Antonio, you think about Texas and some of the great things that come out
brought
of
you
the
back home.
state.
Yeah, it really came full
absolutely.
circle
Yeah, you
for
just
sure.
she just moved from here to Virginia, and then we brought her back here. So.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And you've told me a little bit about all the various roles that you had at Perot, but working your way all the way up to CIO.
Correct.
But say a little bit about that, because you've traveled the world and served all kinds of industries.
Yeah, it's fun too, because I think healthcare brings all that knowledge to bear. When you think of biomedical devices, I've worked quite extensively in manufacturing. I worked in banking. All of these things come to bear in some shape or form in healthcare. Travel and leisure. If you think of hospitality, heads in beds, there's heads in beds in hospital systems as well.
It's
But
true.
energy, as far as working in all those different sectors, construction and engineering, if you think about building an academic medical center, that is all about the construction and all the planning that goes into it to be able to have all the right technology in the future in place. But yeah, at this point, I would say the last couple decades have been focused within healthcare. And that's the type of mission that touches all of our hearts, because at the end of the day, you think of your loved ones, even yourself. You're in a situation, you want to have great best days in your life, and that's, you want to live healthy for that.
Right.
So being in healthcare, every single one that's on this expo floor has a path to the patient. And sometimes if you're not right in the care delivery, direct line of sight, people don't realize just how huge your impact is. It's a great industry. Well, I've enjoyed being a CIO in healthcare for about a little south of 20 years. The opportunities at AAMI, it just brings all those stakeholders together. This is like my happiest moment when
like
it comes
the
to
dream
work.
situation, yeah.
It's the
Brings it
dream
all.
job.
You look back and you say, well, I did this and I did this and I did this, and it prepared me for that. And you think, well, I guess I couldn't have planned it, but it
Right.
worked out.
Right.
It
Sometimes
worked
we
out.
take the most obscure paths, but it all, you always end up where you should be, and I think that really comes together, because you have such an eclectic background that, really prepared you in so many ways to, step into this role.
Absolutely. I will also offer that when we think of the HTM role, really those individuals are really very close to patient care delivery. So they're in the environment that the clinicians are delivering the care. The opportunities in the future is going to require that they get that hodgepodge of other disciplines, whether it be technology or going a little deeper with some of their understandings around what the care delivery is, that home setting when you think of consumerism. I think the HTM role is one of the most exciting roles going forward, with just the sheer opportunities. One of our speakers on the panel at the keynote today was even commenting that they thought that very soon you'd see HTMs rolling into chief information officer kind of roles. And I can definitely see where that would be a huge strength, to have that understanding of the HTM discipline with that combination of that technology background, it would be terrific.
And that's such an interesting thing in perspective to say, because when you think even back 10 years ago with standalone medical devices, when the EHR didn't exist. I mean, that was a huge revelation for nursing, to bring in the EHR and to get them to document. And now, you would never think of, HTM professionals at that point, how it's so changed. Even when we were talking with GE Healthcare, who's our sponsor for this, by the way, they were, they had said the same thing back in 2017. Cybersecurity in medical care wasn't at the forefront of everyone's mind.
Right,
and
it was all banking.
It was all
Everybody's
banking.
worried about the banks.
And now when you think healthcare is the number one target, you're so right.
It is all wired together in a good way. I will offer that getting the plumbing in place first, and you can use that analogy for a lot of different areas, but that foundation of the electronic medical record that was really encouraged with meaningful use as far as getting
encouraged.
Yeah.
Well, bribed in some ways as far as that
another
goes.
way to say it. Yeah.
But how do you get clinicians to adopt? It was it wasn't enough to get it in. You had to make sure that people were actually using it in a meaningful way and demonstrating that. And with that, the government had some nice grants, if you will, payments.
Oh, yeah.
But when it comes to the biomedical piece, now that we have the EMR Foundation, there is so much data on biomedical devices. And while they can be networked in, all of that hasn't happened to the degree that it can. And when we want to do all this work with machine learning, we want to do artificial intelligence, we're going to need to be using some of that data, and it'll be meaningful to being able to make those algorithms that much better as far as care delivery. So it's an exciting time, but we really are going to be seeing our HTM professionals flex, and they're going to be not only flexing as far as in their skill sets, but also in the areas where they deliver their services, and that gets into the home health, the hospital at home, wearables. Some things might be considered more disposable, but some of it will require that maintenance to make sure that something's working reliably, or you can't really count on it for safe care.
So you've been in health company.
Yes.
And that was in healthcare as well.
That
and
was
it
in
was travel
healthcare.
nurses, right?
Yes, travel nurses, and that company's still in business.
That's a good sign.
Wow.
That's good.
Two decades in, it
there
goes
you go.
by
You
fast.
made it past the first year, and now you got the next 19. That's excellent.
Yeah.
So you did that, and then you moved into healthcare as a CIO.
Which was a conscious choice on my part, because there were a lot of different industries I could go in.
Sure.
But looking at where healthcare was and what healthcare wanted to do, you knew that there was going to be massive change in a positive way, and with that comes a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
But
it's intellectually stimulating and it's mission driven.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was one reason I came back.
Complex problems.
Came to AAMI
Yeah.
was the mission element. And I know you've told me that you chose the field you did because you wanted to be in the hospital.
I did. So
you wanted to be in patient care.
Yeah, my mom was an ER nurse growing up.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
we grew up with all those dirty stories at dinner for the patient, and I knew I just wanted to be in healthcare, but I didn't want hands-on patient care after hearing what she dealt with in the ER. But but I wanted to be in the hospital and give back that way. So
I have a funny story for you, Danielle. This is for you. My daughter, when she was in high school, got a chance to do rounding in local hospitals, and she actually rounded in Children's Health, where I was delivering as a CIO as far as services across the health system. And she comes home one day and she says, "Mom, I don't know how to break this to you." And I said, "Just tell me whatever it is." And she said, "Mom, those physicians don't really like that EMR that you've been deploying." Now, what you'll find funny is she knew with certainty that she wanted to work in healthcare, and she's now 24, she's finished her undergrad, and she's going into med school. But I remember when she was still in high school, she said to me, Mom, I want to work in healthcare, but I don't want to do that IT,
like
technology,
opposite.
biomed
Yeah.
stuff that
Yeah.
you're doing.
Yeah.
She said, nah, I don't think so. But it's funny.
Would you be upset, Mom, if I became a doctor? She
Yeah,
said, yeah, no, that'll be all
exactly.
right. That'll be all right.
It's like, yeah, okay, if
Okay.
you prefer to be a doctor. But I found it funny because your mom was at the front lines of care delivery being a nurse, and you were saying, I want to be in the hospital system, but I'm going to work on the biomedical technology side with HTM.
She's like the opposite. So
Yeah,
that's a
flip-flop.
really great story.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to put you on the spot. We've had a chance to talk a lot about the future of healthcare. Your whole panel today was focused on that. I've served healthcare in various roles over a period of years now, not from healthcare, but served healthcare. And there have been, we talk about the electronic health record and meaningful use and the changes that have come along. We talk about network devices, and that's come along. The change has come at a certain pace. Some might say it felt very quick, others would say it wasn't that quick, but we're at a sort of a precipice with connected devices. We talk about now those devices going into the home and home health care, or whatever the setting is outside of the acute care setting, but connected devices, wearables, all those things. And this is, I know you're in a new role, you have to be careful what you say, so this personal opinion, not official AAMI policy or position. How fast is this going to happen? What do you think? How quickly? When am I going to get to the point where I've got all those devices in the home?
I'm going to talk about time frame in two ways. Things that you think are going to take a long time, they'll go really fast. And there's some things that you think are going to go very fast, and sometimes there's complexity there that causes them to take a long time. I gave one example during the keynote today of back in 2005, UMass Memorial was deploying a virtual intensive care unit. And frankly, they still have that in place, greatly
Almost
expanded.
20 years ago.
Almost 20 years ago. And the components were there, but relative to getting it to a scalable model, sometimes it takes a bit for all those pieces to come together where it's a scalable solution where it can be adopted in a pervasive way across the nation, across the globe. I do think that individuals are becoming more accountable for their care. I think payers are helping with that as far as trying to make sure that people are looking after chronic illness and really looking after themselves. But things like even as simple as I have an Fitbit on, you can have an Apple Watch. People are becoming more aware of their health care. Question is just because you can have the plumbing, I keep using that analogy, doesn't mean the plumbing gets used. And this is what I mean by that.
Well, that goes back to meaningful use and the challenges there. It was all going into the record and it wasn't getting used.
I'll give the example of getting clinicians to use the data that could be uploaded from your Apple Watch. That capability has been there to go into the electronic medical record. You could say it may not be as refined as some of the equipment that could, let's say, track the same things, but it's still giving you directional information of whether something's going up or going down, and is it leaning in the right direction. And some clinicians may not feel comfortable with that, but I've also seen in organizations, hospital systems like Cedars-Sinai, when that capability was there, they were immediately dumping that data into their electronic medical record, and they were basically saying, if we have it in there, in time people will figure out how they want to use it.
Right, at least it's there.
Exactly, exactly. But that's the same with biomedical devices. The challenge with biomedical devices is the sheer volume of data.
Right.
And I think that some of it is becoming, one, networking it in, but certainly what is the frequency to have it be useful? You could do
that's
snapshots.
where you get into AI, right?
Well,
Exactly.
that's
Machine
what
learning.
we were talking about. Like only like 7% of like collected data is actually used. There's like there's so much that's not used but collected.
But if you have it, there's different ways. It's getting easier to use. The other thing with technology, this is true, everything just gets smaller and hotter. You need to, things are
like
going...
Like the light we put over your head, it's about 400 degrees.
Yeah, exactly. But as far as technology, more and more is going to be able to be housed. Today we might be looking at a certain amount of data that wouldn't or would not make sense to dump from these biomedical devices and use in an AI way. But as you can store more, then you can, at that question, it may be a non-issue, and you can store that data and use it. But I do think it helps those 5% of the health systems, the vendors that truly innovate, because they try things out, get the kinks worked through, and then you can scale it.
Disseminates, right?
Right, but even like if you take small doc practices, when is something practical or not? In those instances, if they're using the electronic medical record in the cloud, there's a lot that they can do, but they don't have to have a sophisticated IT shop to be able to run it. The same is going to be true with certain types of devices. There's things you can do on your iPhone, like even like take a look at a child's ear, for example, or an adult's ear. There's different things that you can do, and more you're going to find that some of these devices are going to be scaled at a level that they can be adopted, and you won't necessarily have to be that huge academic medical center or even that community hospital system.
Well, that's the only point when you'll get broad adoption. So
but as far as what ends up spiking, then you're basically determining that based on having some of the things work through with the innovators, and then it makes a great green field for others.
All right, so you didn't give me an answer.
I didn't give you an answer.
3
years
years
I was
and
saying
6
it
months.
Depends. It depends.
No,
It
I'm
depends.
just teasing
It's a great
you.
summary.
And it's not homogenous. It's going to be different things at different times. But what we can agree on this conversation, we've agreed before, and I think they know it, but HTM better get ready for a rapidly changing world.
Absolutely, and they can help drive that world.
Well, yeah,
that's
what
the
makes our
really
field
enthusiastic
exciting.
thing.
Yeah.
It's when you say how fast can it happen. Hey, HTMers out there, how fast can we make this happen? Because really they need to be at the table to help really drive that and show that it's a feasible solution.
That's actually a very good point.
Well,
and actually you just gave me a posture shift that I need to get more firmly embedded in my head. It's not just watching healthcare and watching all of these developments and saying, when do I need to be ready for this? Drive it.
And that's,
don't wait for it. Drive it.
And I'll never forget when we interviewed the HTM professionals from Feather River. I asked them, how did you get through this? And I'll never forget. They said, as HTM professionals, every day we adapt and overcome. Whether it's fixing an infusion pump, and today when the fires were coming to the hospital, it was no different. We adapt and overcome, but just in a different way. And I feel like, I just got like chills down my spine when he said that, and I was like, well, that's so true, and it doesn't matter if it's new technology or a disaster or the pandemic. That's what we do, and that's what we're there for.
Absolutely, and they have the skills.
They do.
Already have been.
They problem solve, no matter what it is.
Absolutely, and we need that. And I'll tell you what really inspires you is when you see something happen that touches your loved ones. You step back and you say, we can do better than this. And when we do that, they have the skills. We just need to make it all happen. But I am looking forward to this new role.
It's going to be
we're so excited.